Hi, I'm Amy Sylvester. I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to be talking specifically about adoption and even more specifically about open adoption. What does that mean for our family? What could it mean for your family? Share a little of our experience and then just also dispel any myths about it. And so I hope you'll stick around to talk about open adoption today. We are a family. We have biological kids, we have adopted kids, and we've moved across the country, and we are, in the next year or so, going to be building a home. I'm going to share today with you our experience with open adoption and try to answer your questions. I'm going to start with just giving the same caveat I always give when I talk about adoption, is that your story is going to be different than my story. Whether you've already adopted, whether you're waiting to adopt, whether you're hoping to adopt, or you're just curious, I guarantee you that your story with adoption is going to be different than our families. But I can dispel some things about what open adoption is. When we first started the process, I was a little nervous, the idea of having an open adoption, but thankfully we worked with a pretty healthy adoption agency that valued that there would be some level of openness. So that's the first part I was going to tell you, is that your adoption is going to be different, but the kind of open adoption you have is also going to be different. It can be that the openness is simply you share photos and a few updates a handful of times a year to your agency, and then they forward them to the birth family, be it birth mom, birth dad, or whoever is in a connection with the agency. And that's it. That is a form of open adoption. They don't know where you live, they don't have any direct contact with you. That is still considered a form of open adoption. Open adoption can go from there, where you aren't exchanging email addresses or phone numbers or physical addresses, all the way to you're like doing birthdays together. One thing I want to dispel, and this is something that I feel like people have asked me a lot about when I mention our situation, is, well, do they have opinions on how you raise your children? Do they have way or buy-in or legal rights? We are 100% the parents. We are 100% in control of what is allowed in our child's lives, just as if we had biologically had them. So the driver's seat is still in the parents' control while working alongside the birth family's wishes and desires. I know that some adoptions are not healthy. Honestly, there's so much brokenness, and there's always brokenness. There's brokenness in our story. But our situation is that these birth moms were extremely empowered to make this decision on their own, with guidance, with counselors, with social workers, and they specifically chose our family to parent their child. So it's not a situation where a child was taken from them. Now, oftentimes an agency will try to kind of broker some kind of conversation or agreement prior to the placement of the baby or the child. And again, there's so many variables that keep coming in my mind. But what our experience has been is not necessarily like a legal binding document. It's more like, in good faith, this is what we're going to do. And for Corey and I, we said as long as all people are healthy and doing well, like, we would be so excited to have the birth families connected. The other piece of that too is that it's an evolving relationship. I don't know anyone with open adoption where it's going to look the same every week or year or month or throughout the years as the child grows. Even for us, it has evolved. In just a few years, we've been an adoptive family. Initially, we lived far away from the birth families, and it's very much like you can't, even if we wanted to see them, it's a major feat to make that happen. And so it initially was just videos and little updates over email, and then we shifted to like FaceTime calls. And then the relationship grew from there to we even have done some visits. And I will say that it really 100% is in our court to decide yes or no on those, and how often. We tried to honor the agreement that we made at the birth of our children, to where we would do regular updates on some kind of monthly-ish schedule to include the birth family. Now we don't have that isn't in place, because we have built a healthy relationship with really clear boundaries. No one tries to cross them. Everyone understands what hat they're wearing in the arena. We all love our children, but everyone is healthy and in a place where they can recognize that Corey and I are the parents, and they are the birth parents or even grandparents or family that come around. I know that that is a privilege that we should never take for granted, because I know of so many adoptive families where that is just not the case. They either don't know where the birth family is, it's not a healthy enough situation for anyone to have that connection. And so I realize our family situation is very unique. They're on our Christmas list. They are incorporated in our family for like updates, or it's a birthday, so I want to share a picture of our children at their birthday parties, or and if it's even possible, we would get together. My hope is that over the years, and if we can overcome distance and that kind of thing, that our children would always have a biological connection to their birth, that relationship, that as they start wrestling, if you're new to adoption, you may not know all this, but that adult adoptees that I follow and learn from talk about the grief journey of walking through adoption. And for us as adoptive parents, we're like, but we love them. I mean, I have biological children and adopted children, and I even forget sometimes that they're adopted. They are so part of me. But that doesn't change the fact that our kids will, at some stages of their life, have questions that could lead to some grieving and some confusion. And I'm so grateful that we have a pathway for our kids to ask those questions and have relationship with their birth families to get the answers that they need and the relationship that they need. Because one thing I am really thankful for is that my husband and I have done enough work to accept our role, that I am mama, I am mommy, I am their mom, I'm their day in, day out, bottles, diapers, up at night mom. I'm their mom, but I'm not their first mom. And my husband as well. Like, he has worked through the fact that he is in the trenches with these little ones, and we are passionately loving them as mom and dad. And it's our family, they are our family. And at the same time, they have first fathers, they have first dads. And so I am not going to get my feelings hurt, or I'm not going to let what I would feel step in the way of our children having connection. Their mental health, their emotional health, their spiritual health is more important to me. And I also feel like I know my role in their life. I'm their mom. I'm not threatened by the fact that they have birth families. I'm actually excited that they have birth families that they can always be connected to. I wanted to share one resource with you that I feel like it's something really special, and our kids are so little they don't really fully understand it yet, but it is something that I will always read to them as they grow and as they know their families. And it is focused on birth mom, not as much birth dad, but the story is the same, and it's called The Story of Us. Here's the book here, and it's by Lindsay McKenzie. This book is all about the moms in this baby's life, and how there's a first mom and there's adoptive mom who's just mom. And so I hope that you will check this out. I think you can find it on Amazon. I think that's where I got it. And it's such a beautiful book showing how, the hospital experience. And again, it's going to be infant-related adoption, and I know you may have a different story, but it's all about, like, mommy loves you, yes I do, and her hopes for you I will carry through. And so it's just an absolutely beautiful book about the two moms in this child's life who are looking out in love and hope for the child. Our family is so incredibly blessed at the bravery and the strength of birth families who had other choices in their lives, and they chose to carry the child and to select a family that they would trust, that would love their child with all their hearts. And that is true. We love them with all our hearts. So don't be scared of open adoption. I know that everyone's experience has been different, and I know there are some stories that are really hard, so I'm not going to try to paint a perfect picture. But I will say, if you're on the front end of this, there is the possibility of really having a really special extended family join your family through open adoption. And so I hope that's going to be your story. And if it's not, if you can't have that kind of rose-colored glasses, so to speak, where you have kind of this extended family where it's healthy, you're the one in control. So you're the one who is drawing those boundary lines when it isn't healthy. So I just wanted to tell you that it's really not to be feared, because you're still the mom or dad in the situation. And if it can be healthy, it's really beautiful for your children. And honestly, I'm so blessed by it. that is what open adoption has been like for our family. And I hope it's answered some of your questions. Please comment below if you have more adoption questions, more questions about adoption in general, or even open adoption. What are some of your fears? What are some of your concerns? What are some of your excitements? I'd love to answer those in a future video. Do subscribe and come back. We'll continue to make content around our family, around adoption, around building a home, and I just hope you'll come around. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Be sure to come back and like and subscribe.
Say bye, buddy.